What's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I am me, Tom Tates, and you are you. So let's talk about Switch 2. This is the latest and greatest Nintendo Switch 2 news brought to you every Tuesday and Friday in snackable episodes. We try to keep things 10 minutes or less. If you're new to the show, welcome. Today happens to be Tuesday. It is February 17th, past the midpoint for the month. It is 7:52 a.m. on the East Coast. The big release today is the Virtual Boy and Nintendo Switch Online Classics Virtual Boy Library. If this is new news to you, Virtual Boy was a handheld from Nintendo back in the 1990s. It featured a true kind of VR-style headset where you looked into the headset, you played black and red pixelated games with this 3D, I guess it's stereoscopic depth effect, if I'm using that word correctly. The only way to play, though, on Switch and Switch 2 is with either a $25 cardboard cutouts that slips over top of your Switch. You can buy that online. Or a $100 replica of the original console, which looks pretty good. It looks pretty true to form. I think this whole thing is really cool. I've been watching people share their unboxing and initial impressions online. Not a ton, but just a bit. And I'm not rushing personally to pick this up. I've covered the launch lineup in a previous episode, so I'm not going to go too deep into it today. The one thing that I think is very awesome is that they'll be putting out a few unreleased games later this year, which is really cool, just celebrating the history of Virtual Boy, even though at the time, people really didn't love this thing. But it is out today. I'll leave a link to Nintendo's website where you can learn more and see the accessories that you need to purchase if you want to play this. Bloomberg put out a report that I feel confirms what everyone knows. I've been talking about it a lot on the show due to the rising costs of RAM. And this is mostly driven by the cost of AI and building out these data centers and kind of data center infrastructure that's needed to run the AI demand. Nintendo is considering, not confirmed, considering a price increase for Switch 2. They also mentioned that this Rampocalypse, that's their term, not mine, is contributing to Sony delaying the release of their next PlayStation console until 2028, 2029. We know that the Steam machine has slowed down a bit, no confirmed pricing. We no longer have like a confirmed date or release window. So it's really unfortunate. You know, you don't really realize that you're living through kind of a golden age of gaming affordability until the bubble bursts. And I think between tariffs and now the cost of RAM and $60 games becoming $70 games or above, there's, obvious rumors that GTA is going to be over $100. If wages don't go up, gaming is becoming more of a luxury or kind of a high-cost hobby. And I'm not making any political statements here. I'm just saying that, if the price of gaming goes up and people generally, on average are not making more money, then it is a high-cost hobby, which is unfortunate because it used to be very accessible. In other news, Braid Anniversary Switch 2 Edition is out. It is a kind of classic 2008 Xbox arcade title. I feel like this was the game for me that kind of kicked off the indie push. Obviously, it's not the first indie game that was ever created or released, but I feel like it really made a mark in the space and kind of made a name for indies as a thing. And I will always relate this game to kind of the Xbox Summer of Arcade campaigns that they would run on Xbox 360, where, every month you get a highlighted kind of quote unquote indie title. Some of them were not indie. But Braid, very classic game. This is kind of a remaster, and it is out on Switch 2 now. NIS America and developer Nihon Falcom will release Ys, that's spelled YS, Ys 10, Proud Nordics, in just a few days. This is a re-release of Ys 10 Nordics, which was released on Switch already. Nordics was about 25 to 45 hours long, according to howlongtobeat.com. And this re-release has extra content. So maybe it'll be well worth the price of admission, which is currently sitting at $69.99 upon release. Nintendo Life's Ethan Zach gave it an 8 out of 10. I'll just read through kind of what he shared. His joys, epic adventure with a great blend of naval and on-foot exploration, silky smooth action with tons of combat options at your disposal, excellent visual and performance quality, comfortably outperforming the OG Switch release, new side story that deepens Karja's character, several extra modes and features that are solid additions to the main game's existing wealth of gameplay variety. Graphics, his cons graphics are still a touch basic. New mana action is a letdown in controls and implementation, and new features don't quite justify the game's existence as a standalone release. So again, he gave it an 8 out of 10. I'll have a link in the show notes to the full article. And then Nintendo Insiders, Cullen Black, also gave it an 8 out of 10. And I'll link to that review as well, too, but I'm not going to go too in-depth here. NIS America also announced the release of Brigandine Abyss. This is a strategy RPG that will release at some point in 2026, so we'll get more from that publisher. And then finally, there was a rumor this week that Stellar Blade, the PC and PS5 game, might be coming to Switch 2 at some point. This is totally not confirmed, but I will keep an eye on this if Stellar Blade is a game that you wanted to play but missed. All right, that's it for today. I want to thank you so much for your time and your attention. It truly means a ton. A quick rating or review really helps me continue to grow the show. You can do that on your podcast listening app of choice. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that you had a great weekend. I will be back on Friday. Until then, much love. Now go play some games.